Okay, hi people. So today I'm going to show you how I fixed up my desk back there for doing school online, because that's the world we're now in, and everything's already filmed, which is why I'm out here and not next to the desk. So let's get into it, and I'll see you in a second. Okay, so what I first did was just clean off the desk because there was a lot, but this desk was just sort of a throw together that was built a while ago. It's just a piece of what I believe is pine because it's a real dentable wood, and a cabinet that was left over with what my parents had bought because they got a large storage unit and we have too many. But I start off with going through and just pulling everything off of it. I also had this half set up already for online school, but I was like, this is gonna need a change if this is gonna go on for longer. And then I just had the TV running because I decided to also move all my electronics into this room so I can just be distracted while I work at school. So yeah, so the biggest problems with this desk were that the top was unfinished, which I'd already bought paint for at least 3 years ago to get finished, and then the drawers didn't have any handles on them, and the drawers themselves weren't properly set on the sliders, so that had to be adjusted. And then it took me a while to figure out how to take off the top because I couldn't remember how the top was put on, which it was just a bunch of pocket screws along the back and then some within the inside of the cabinet base. But yeah, this had taken me way too long to get to, so it was finally time for me to get to work and finish this up. And then it took me a good while to get this top off. It's fairly not sturdy towards the end piece on the right hand side from where you're looking, because you've got a single piece of wood that runs along the back, which you'll see once I take off the top, but then besides that there really isn't anything to stabilize it. And again, it's a pine board, so it's fairly easy to bend and move around. And then with the drawers, those were pretty easy to take off. They are special, or the soft close hinges, which is nice, but it means that there's a bit more hardware to work with underneath. And then I just had to go in, and there's only 2 screws holding the cabinet up underneath, which had to be removed before I could pull it off. And I got distracted way too many times while doing this, knowing the camera's on. And then the top finally decided to budge once I got those last screws off, and yeah. So then I gave this an initial sanding. I went through and just sanded every single part of the surface down because I'd been cutting on it from other projects. There was resin stuck on the top. There was so much stuff that needed to just be flattened down for it to be a level workspace that just needed to be handled at the same time. So I went through, got all of that taken care of, and then from there I moved on and I went through and put wood filler in all the holes, which there were a lot. And the problem with this wood is that since it's pine, it gets dented really easily, so I had to use wood filler in a lot of different places along the desk, which was very annoying, but it's what happens. And then, yes, there's discoloration on the pine right there. That's because I tried to paint on it and I didn't shake the plate properly, and then I was like, I probably should fill in those holes. And then I just went through once everything had properly dried off, except for that one corner, without me realizing it, which then had to be later patched. I went through and just scraped off any extra of the wood filler that was on top from the dried spots before I went down and sanded it, just because I could and I felt that it would be easier. And then I went through and sanded everything that was dry, except for that one spot on the right, which for some reason was taking forever to dry. I was also not being very patient with it too, though. And then from there, it was on to actually painting it. I had taped off the edges at just the width of the, what is it called? Painter's tape itself. That's what it's called. And yeah, as you can see, there's people working around me with my parents, and they're doing other stuff. They were tiling, I believe, and then I was just there painting the desk because it needed to be done. And to paint it, all I used was a sponge brush, and then on top is a chalk paint so that it's easier for me to do work on here instead of using a bunch of paper. And then I got these nice shots of pulling off the tape with a nice clean edge,
which I then got rid of because I hated it. So then I took this Ralph Lauren metallic blue along the edge just to make it more pop, and it gave it this really nice like childhood type feeling, but also this more like this is a desk where getting things done at. And then I just went back and put all the screws back in, saying I remembered where all the screws went because that took me a second to remember how the desk was lined up. But then from there I just did all that. On the edge you can partially see it where it looks like I painted uneven on part of it, and you see all the weird lines. I faded out the hard edge of the chalk paint because it just looked really bad with the hard edge of the blue. So then it gave it more of like a crayon type edge where it's that sort of rough yet and spotty edge, which then smoothed out to that nice thick blue without having any more gaps in it. And it was a lot better than having the lines in it. And then from there it was on to putting the handles on the screws, yes. And that, because I didn't have the proper tools for that. Well, I did have the proper tools, I just didn't have the normal guide you can get at Home Depot and all those stores, where you just put it on the desk and it's like, here's where you put this in this hole. And I didn't have that, so I had to manually go through, measure everything, do the calculations, mark center, and make sure everything was in the right spot before I drilled. And then once I got that in the right spot, which took me forever to mark properly, I took a drill and, well, a nail to mark the hole, and then a drill to go through and pre-drill out the hole so that the screw would just fit through pretty nice and easily, because they were machine screws, because it's just a handle, and I just wanted to slide in and then just use the tightness of the screw and the handle to hold it in place. And then, yeah, it took me also a second to get a bunch of stuff done, so I had to go through and order more screws, which is why you don't see me putting all the cabinets on here. So yeah. And then the last part was setting up everything back up on the desk, which honestly, it changed. You'll see this after these time lapses, but I worked with this setup for a while with having my computer on just the desk itself, setting the TV up on the side, and having everything reorganized in the desk and on my hanger that I've got there. And it worked for a while, and then it really didn't because I had to move my computer around a lot to actually get to the chalkboard. So as you'll see here in a second, I actually brought over another smaller like bedside table, like a coffee table type thing that I just have wandering around up here, and I use that for my computer now, so I have a large opening on my desk where I can go through, sketch ideas out, and do all of that. And then, so yeah, that's how I set up my desk. And this is what I mean by I changed things up. I've got the coffee table here with my computer and all the wires here, so that this entire area is clear up for when I want to use chalk to, say, solve some weird and evil imaginary equation, because we needed imaginary numbers in math. So, thanks for watching. Hopefully this inspires you to change up your desk or workspace for how this world is changing, and we'll see you in the next video. See ya!